Sairam, everyone.
Sairam, brother Arno.
We were discussing, I think, the 8th chapter in Sandeha Nivarini when we left. Swami is talking about how our response should be when we have made something wrong. I mean, we have done something wrong. Swami says we should not apologize. What we really should do means apologize to God. What we should really do is to repent and avoid it and accept the correction which Swami would deal. Either it's punishment or correction or pardon or whatever. It's his wish. And that's where we left off. We had completed before that the 40 points, 48 points which Swami has told us, which we should practice in our daily life. So with those thoughts, I will ask Sister Kalyani to read on side.
Oh, Sairam, Uncle, I'm so sorry.
Okay, no.
Sorry, the computer just had a malfunction. I'm just restarting it. It should be up.
Okay, that's fine. Should I will just read the next question, I think. So till Kalyani is up and running, I think I will read so that I'll read the paragraph question and answer pair which we discussed last week. Why, Swami, why should we not ask for pardon when we commit wrong? Swami, no, you must not ask either for pardon when wrong is done or for reward when right is done. Doing right is but man's duty. It is its own reward. What other reward can there be? The joy of having done one's duty is your reward. Doing wrong is against the duty of man. So one should pray repentantly for the intelligence and discrimination necessary for not repeating the wrong already committed. Beyond this, it depends on his grace, whether he punishes and protects or pardons and corrects. The Bhakta, that is very fine. Henceforward, I shall do so, Swami.
Yeah.
So Kalyani is back, so I will let Kalyani. I think this is what we discussed before we left off last Saturday. So we will continue from that point onwards. Sairam, Kalyani, you can forward a little more and read, I think. Next questions. Yeah.
Bhakta, that is very fine. Henceforward, I shall do so, Swami. Swami, let that be. Are you treasuring the gems given on the birthday and making good use of them? Bhakta, as far as possible, with my maximum effort using the quality of buddhi granted by you, I am putting them into action. Swami, what do you mean by as far as possible? For bhaktas like you, What other task is there greater than this? Why is it not possible? You only need faith and the will. Then it should not be difficult at all to carry out the duty.
Sai Ram, sister. Thank you. Okay, Sai Ram. As you can see, Swami is asking about practice. The points which Swami had given us in the previous chapter, Swami is referring to them as the gifts from Swami for the birthday. And he's asking whether whether the devotee is practicing. When the devotee says as much as possible, Swami is taking him to task. He says, why do you say as far as possible? He says there's nothing greater for us to do as a bhakta. And he says if there's a will, there's a way. So I think Swami does not want us to give any excuse in trying to practice what he teaches. I will pause here and I will ask the members who have gathered here to share your thoughts, please. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, this is Shivani. My understanding here is, I was just thinking, okay, there are 43 maxims, so we can take each one and do it. But now Bhagawan has answered that, you know what, if you have faith and you have will, it will come automatically. You don't need to have a checklist. It will come because you have so much faith and you will seek guidance within yourself as far as the faith and will is there. Sai Ram.
Thank you very much, sister. I guess it's pretty straightforward. I think maybe there's nothing for anyone to share. So we'll proceed, Sister Kalyani.
Sai Ram, I just want to add one more to Shivani's note. Yes, always when you taken up a duty and you shouldn't say, I will do as much as possible. That itself tells you that there's no faith. If you have a real faith in Swami, you always believe on it and carry out the duty, and you always think once you take a step towards Swami and he will take 100 steps towards you. That faith we should have on anything that we do. Thank you, Sai Ram.
Thank you very much, sister. Thank you. I think there's a comment on the chat box. Brother Sitaram says, another perspective, you cannot give excuse to God for not following his words.
Sai Ram, brother, I want to add one more comment for that. If you make an excuse to Swami and Swami, you have to think, goes around, comes around. So you have to believe that you are giving an excuse, then you have to expect the same excuse from Swami too. Thank you, Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, sisters. Yeah, I think Swami is telling, I think it's general tendency for all of us to say it is very difficult. I think Swami is addressing that in this point. He says it should not be difficult. Or it is not difficult. I think that's what he says. It is just that we have not determined, we have not made up our mind to follow his ways. Because, I think the reality is we don't see a sense of urgency. If something is something which we treasure, for example, if the house is on fire and there are people inside, we will do anything. We won't even bother. That the fire will burn us or we will get burnt. We will jump inside and do whatever we have to. That sense of urgency, I think, if we have, we will follow what he says. If we do not, then we will not. I think that's a reality. So I think we will go on with the reading. Sairam, Sister Kalyani, please read on.
Bhakta, Swami, you have yourself said that even when there is faith and even when one has the will, putting things into practice may be difficult for want of favorable circumstances, and also because the meaning of these things may not be grasped clearly. Swami, oh, that means that both these, want of favorable circumstances and want of understanding, are bothering you. Well, if you have not understood, ask. And if you have no favorable atmosphere, tell me what is the obstacle. Bhakta, doubt is the biggest obstacle. What can be bigger than that? Even after hearing so much, the demon catches hold of me off and on. I do not know why.
So the devotee is persisting with, I think, maybe some excuse, and Swami is breaking it all down. He says, sometimes we don't have favorable circumstances, and sometimes we lack understanding. And I think that's the two excuses, he says, seems to be very valid ones, I guess, from the devotee's perspective. I think Swami says, if you don't understand, ask. So then I think the question would be, how do we ask? Swami is not physically present. How can we ask him to clear a doubt? I think that's the question we will have. Then he says, then ask. So how do we ask? I think that is something which we can discuss. Because what do we mean by ask? And when we ask, how will he respond? How does he clarify that? Today, I would say, Swami is physically not present, and many of us have not had the opportunity to be near him physically to have the conversation. I think this is something which we could definitely discuss. Then we can go about the obstacle. I think that's the second discussion. So I think we can discuss how do we ask when we don't understand, and how does he respond. So I will stop here, and others can share your thoughts, please. Saira.
I think ask is just simple. Ask him, what is my dharma? Let me know. And he will let you know.
Thank you, sister. Anyone else would like to add, please?
I think, as Bhakta says, the doubt is the biggest obstacle. That's a problem that in his in so many ways, Swami shows us that he's looking after us, taking care of us, and if we have any request or doubt, he has, even after is showed so many signs that he is there, and he will help worldly wise, or even more for spiritual progress whenever we have difficulties. But those are, it's. But say, suppose so many things we experience, but still that doubt won't go easily. That's the problem. That's what Swami, through the Bhakta, he himself points out. So we had to get over that. That's the biggest problem in the thing, I think. Say we have some doubt. No, even recently, sometime right away, this thing out of the blues, the answer comes, or in some way or other. But still, whatever this thing, the doubts keep coming. Doubts mean that the firm faith. Otherwise, we would just fully accept whatever Swami says and try to practice. So I think that that's what the Bhakta asks in the last this thing. So, Swami, I don't know what Swami is saying following, so we have to wait to see. Saira.
Yes.
No, in the next, Baba is giving the answer. So we'll wait for his answer actually.
No, I think I thought we would discuss how do we ask. Swami, I don't think Swami is talking about how we ask. How do we ask Swami? See, if you don't understand, means if you don't understand something, how do we ask? And how do we think that he will clarify? Because he says, ask, what something is bothering, ask. If you have not understood, ask. I think there are two problems. One, sometimes we think we understand. Sometimes we think we don't understand. In both cases, we may need some help because in the first place, our understanding may be wrong. The second, that could be tackled by Swami. But if we want to ask, how do we ask if we think we don't understand? Today, I think Sister Shivani said, just ask.
This is what I have done. I always I'm very oblivious to the world, or sometimes you don't know. As a daughter-in-law, I started with that. I didn't know what to do. So my journey, when I got married, I always asked him, what is my dharma? Because I don't know. I really don't know. What should I do? My parents were not in there. I was in Jamaica. So I felt he's telling me, okay, at this point in time, this is what you should do with your mother-in-law. This is what you should do with your sister-in-law. I just felt that he's guiding me. I just asked, what is my dharma? Just please keep telling me. That has helped me a lot. For example, in one of the gathering I went to, I know my feelings were not very pure, very good. Nobody knows. Maybe I pretended I was fine, but I know towards somebody I was not feeling too good, and nobody knows. But I know my feeling, and I didn't feel very good when I came back. I said, this is not very spiritual. Bhagawan will never like this. I just sat in front of him, and I felt that he calmed me down, but just making sure what is that which brought that emotions. It was ego. It was just ego and pride. I identified, and I just promise him I will make efforts not to do it again. That's that's how I do it, Saira.
Thank you, sister.
Saira.
Yes.
When we have that full faith on Swami's teaching and Swami, and we can ask directly Swami that whatever we have the problem or that doubts, that Swami really that. Anyway, Swami will help us and show us the way to that, how to find out that and solve the problems. Another way that Swami said, that my life is my message. Again said, your life is my message. Then after that, there are so many brothers and sisters near us. We can call them, ask and clear the doubts. If they don't know, they will, definitely they will help us. Anyway, that from himself, or he will help us to direct somebody else. We will clear our doubt. For sure, Swami will help us on this way. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, brother. Anyone else would like to say anything? If not, we will proceed.
Hello. Sairam, this is Sitaram. Am I heard?
Yes, can you speak louder, Sitaram?
Okay. Sairam, brother, I just wanted to share one experience which I had directly with Swami. On one occasion, I was praying for Bhagawan to take my letter, in which I was, questioning Swami, asking, "Why don't you speak to me? Why don't you look at me? Why don't you call me for the letter? Has your heart become so so hard that you're not able to even look at me?" Such kind of questions, where you have that intimacy with Bhagawan. Every one of us, each of us has our own relationship with Bhagawan. So in that way I was questioning, and after maybe some 10-15 days, Swami called me for that letter, and he started reading out loud in front of me the same questions that I wrote on the letter. And in the end he asked me, "Why are you questioning me? Just ask me. నన్ను ఎందుకు ప్రశ్నిస్తున్నావు? నన్ను అడుగు చాలు." That's what he said. So he didn't give any explanation for that. And I was, as always, the mind goes blank when you sit in front of Swami, and I go back and sit. And when I introspect and try to understand what is the difference between questioning and asking, I think there is a thin line of difference, because this question I've asked, for example, in that example, if I take, I've asked that question 15 days before Swami has answered me that, right? So he has taken the letter probably when, as Shivani's sister was explaining, the ego or the difference that you see between you and Swami exists. Until that goes off, and when you are in sync with Swami within, that's when Swami starts answering to you, and that's called asking Swami. That's what is my humble understanding, but you can add more. Sorry.
Thank you very much, brother. Thank you. So I think, I just wanted, see, there's no real right answer for this, I guess. But I think each of us have to ask this question. Are we asking properly? How are we asking? Once we ask, are we looking for the clarification? I think each one may uniquely approach this. But I think I thought, if anyone wanted to share, we could share, that's all. As long as there's sincerity in asking, I'm sure Swami will reveal the answer in some way or other. As Brother Rajagopal already explained. Thank you very much. We will go to the next topic, which is the doubt. And I think that Swami is addressing in the next couple of paragraphs also. So we can just read on and then discuss, Saira.
Swami, the first reason for that, you are not having faith in yourself, born out of the conviction that you are really Atma Swarupa, God Himself. The second reason, taking the divinity in humanity as humanity only and getting lost in the pursuit of sense enjoyment. These demons pounce on you for just these two reasons only. Instead, if you establish yourself in God, understanding the divinity in man as divinity itself, this demon of doubt will not attack you. You simply must give up this adhyasa, which makes you mix things up. Bhakta. There, you use now and then ununderstandable words. That makes me even more confused, Swami. Swami, I will never tell you ununderstandable words. You have no power to understand, so you feel worried. I use them really in order to make you understand their meaning. Now, in what I told you, what is the difficult word?
Okay, thank you very much, sister. I think the second part of the question, I think, is continuing on. But we will discuss about the doubt, the demon of doubt, which the real obstacle which the devotee is saying. That's the reason we don't practice. We question what has been told. We don't have full understanding, or we doubt the veracity or the validity of that statement. And for that, Swami says the doubt creeps in when we don't have faith in oneself. And we should realize that we ourselves are divine. And Swami also wants us to see divinity in humanity around us also. And I think so that's, and if we do that, Swami says the doubt will disappear. So I will pause here. There's a word called adhyasa. I think we will not discuss it at this point in time, but we can discuss what is self-confidence, I guess, which each one of you think is. How do we understand that self-confidence, that our real self is divinity? I think that we have somehow cultivate, Swami says. So I will open it up for participants to share your thoughts. Sai.
Sairam, what is the exact meaning of adhyasa?
I think Swami is explaining, brother, in the next paragraph. So I will leave Swami to explain that in the next pair of question and answer. But we can discuss, what is, unless if everyone feels, otherwise, Sister Kalyani, why don't you read the next pair of question and answer also on adhyasa? And then I think we can have a meaningful discussion.
Bhakta, you used the word adhyasa. What does that mean, Swami? Swami, what? You do not know the meaning of that? Seeing one form and taking it to be another, superimposing one thing upon another. Bhakta, how is that? On which object do we superimpose another? Tell me. Swami, while seeing a rope and imagining it to be a snake, seeing waves of hot air in the sun and imagining them to be horses, seeing a mirror shining in the sun and taking it to be a lamp.
Okay, thank you very much, sister. I think so Swami has explained the word adhyasa, and which is sometimes a problem in having that self-confidence that we are the Atman. So I think there's nothing much for me to explain unless someone has a question. We could, everyone can share your thoughts. I will open it up, please.
Sairam, before proceeding to this paragraph, I want to ask a question on what is Swami is talking about favorable circumstances. On the previous paragraph, Swami tells, that means that both these wants of favorable circumstances and want of understanding. What is that favorable circumstances Swami means by here? Thank you, Sairam.
Okay, brother has asked a question. I think we're just going back a little bit. Where Swami, the devotee says that the circumstances when they are not favorable, there are two reasons we don't practice. One is lack of understanding of what has been taught. The second one is favorable circumstances. So brother Arul is asking, what do we consider favorable circumstances?
So Sairam, brother, so we have to understand we have the power, we have the materialization, we have the vibration, we have the radiation. So we don't use that one. We have such it Anand. So our divinity within us, but we are trapped into the Maya, the illusion. So we are not having full faith on that one. When we started to have faith that unfavorable things, that illusions and everything, the Maya, we can clear the Maya, then we can move on to that one. That is my understanding, Sairam.
Thank you very much, brother. So, brother, anyone else who would like to comment on what exactly is favorable circumstances and what unfavorable circumstances to practice something which Swami has told us to practice?
Sairam, it looks like, for example, suppose I have to do meditation at say 5 o'clock. But but my duty is to go to downtown, so I have to get up early and finish my morning ablutions, and I have to rush to catch the bus and train, so I don't have time for meditation. So this is an unfavorable situation. So, but Baba says you cannot say it's unfavorable. You have to find some favorable way in any circumstances. So it looks like that. That's my understanding.
Thank you very much, brother. Anyone else would like to share your thoughts, please? So, favorable circumstances and unfavorable circumstances.
I guess in the paragraph itself, the Swami's asking when you're saying you don't have a favorable atmosphere, what do you mean? What's the obstacle? And the Bhakta is saying doubt. So in addition to like an external favorable atmosphere, I guess we can also consider the internal atmosphere within our own minds. And this Bhakta is saying that doubt is the biggest obstacle for him, creating an unfavorable atmosphere within himself.
So, Sairam, brother, so if we practice, it doesn't affect, suppose if you want to meditate in one place, that then we have to sit properly and everything. So that is a favorable position. But once you practice and after that, we don't need to sit properly and we can do anywhere, wherever we want. Thank you, Sairam, brother.
Sairam, brother. Thank you. Anyone else would like to share your thoughts, please? So based on what has been discussed, I think so I sort of understand. See, the external circumstances are beyond our control. That's going to be the way it is going to be. But the real problem with external circumstances is, as Sister Kalyani pointed out, something which is internal. Our own mind is troubled by it. And so because of that, the doubt creeps in. Doubt means we doubt even the circumstances itself. If the circumstances were not according to our liking, we think there's something wrong with the circumstances. But Swami would say, I have created the circumstances for you to do sadhana. But we think that is not conducive. I think so. Ultimately, the problem of favorable circumstances is within the mind. And I think that's where the devotee, again, Swami is writing as the devotee, and he's saying the problem is our own mind, the doubts in the mind. And then Swami goes on to say that the unfavorable circumstances within our mind is because we lack self-confidence. So that's then we can solve. So that is where Swami is driving us, because the external world will be external world, and we really don't have much control over it. So we cannot worry about it. But whatever the circumstances is, our internal environment, circumstances should be favorable. The state of mind, as Sister Kalyani put it, it's doubt and all sorts of thoughts. And I think Swami is clubbing it all together and calling it doubt, which I think is lack of self-confidence. That's what I seem to understand based on whatever everyone has discussed. So if anyone has something to share, please do so.
Just something I have heard and learned, so I'm sharing with this group as well. Somebody who's in the mental health, and that's what the person said, why people are anxiety, stress, and all of that, because we try to answer all of our questions in our mind. Whatever the thoughts are, we are trying to answer those questions. So if the thought comes, you don't react, believe me, nothing will happen. It's just to share something with all of you. So yeah.
Thank you very much, sister. And I think Swami has also talked about, one is lack of self-confidence, that we are divine. Then the second one, he says, another problem, unfavorable circumstances, I think, is because we have the pursuit of sense enjoyment. That is also one of the things which causes lack of favorable circumstances or doubt in our mind. I think that also Swami has highlighted here. So these are the two reasons, Swami says. One is we don't realize that we are divine. The second one is we are after sensual enjoyments in this world. So I think it's if brother, you want to say something, brother Sivadas?
No. This is the answer for why the doubt is coming. No, why the doubt is coming? Doubt is coming because of two reasons. One is that lack of faith in our divinity, that that the conviction that we are really the Atma Swarupa. That is one thing. The second reason is the same way we are looking at others and take them as just a man or men or women. We don't see the reality, the underlying reality behind the humanity, which is God. So, first person, also we are lacking the faith that we are the divine. And also we don't see the divinity outside. So when we don't see the divinity outside, we are prone to sense enjoyment. If I look at something and if I see that is divine, I will not be attracted or repulsed. So attraction and repulsion will not be there if I look at the humanity as divinity. So this is the basic ignorance, which is the cause for doubt. That's what Baba is saying, and and Baba is saying adhyasa. So even though the divinity is outside, but we think it is just a humanity. So that's what I was thinking. Thank you. Thank you for asking me. Thank you.
Sairam, brother, maybe you should explain, because if somebody intentionally harms our practice, so then how do we treat that person? See, for example, someone is doing meditation and someone purposely is creating noise or trouble so that one cannot meditate. In such situations, how can we see the divinity in that person? This may be a question which people can ask. So how do we deal with that kind of situation, and how can we see? So if you can address that as well, it will be good.
That is a very unfavorable situation, no? That is a very unfavorable situation Baba is talking. So actually we have to take totally the outside world. The adhyasa is non-real. That's what Baba is saying everywhere, no? Only reality is within me. Whatever I see outside is within me. If I see that person is disturbing, that means I am disturbed, not that other person is disturbing me. So if I am convicted, if I have the strong conviction that I am the Atma, for example, suppose you are sleeping in a room and another person is sleeping in the room, and that person is snoring, and you don't need to get disturbed by the other person snoring, because when you are established in yourself, how can that snoring can hurt you or disturb your sleep? If other snoring is disturbing your sleep, that means you are not established in your divinity. So first part is get established in our divinity. Strong faith that we are the Atma and nothing else. So when that conviction is rooted in our consciousness, then others cannot disturb. That's what my understanding. Thank you, Sairam.
Thank you very much.
So, Sairam, brother, I really I appreciate whatever Sivadas said. That's what we should not find difference in similarity. So that means, so beings are many, but breath is one. Stars are many, sky is one. Nations are many, earth is one. Jewels are many, God is one. So if you find human, or if you find divinity in you and others, it doesn't bother you. That's what Swami always say. If someone doing anything bad to you, don't take it as a big thing. And when you do something bad, and you take it as a big deal. So forgive the person then if you have built up the love, it doesn't affect you. Even if you are disturbed during the meditation, when you go into the deep, that external things, it doesn't affect. That's what I'm thinking. Thank you, Sai Ram, brother.
Thank you very much, brother. Anyone else would like to share your thoughts, please?
I had a question about the pursuit of sense enjoyment. So Swami saying, we shouldn't pursue sense enjoyment, but in day-to-day life, we are, interacting with the external world and having to use our senses. So is there anything wrong in enjoying it and taking it as divinity? For example, like if you have to eat anyway, so if you eat something that tastes good and you enjoy that, and you think of it as God, the food is God, and all of that. Is there anything wrong with that? And same way, like if you go outside and you enjoy nature and all of that, is there anything wrong with doing that?
Sai Ram, sister, very good question. I will ask others to share their thoughts, please.
Zaira, so long as we are not disturbed, so long as we are calm and collected in the outside environment, that's okay. Even eating food, okay, tasty food, and you are eating and you are not disturbed, that is okay. If I am disturbed by outside, say, for example, say better example is that Sita seeing a deer. Sita seeing a deer and get attracted and husband is running for the deer and even the Lakshmana is getting scolded and he has to run after it. So whatever sense enjoyment here, get lost in the pursuit of sense enjoyment. Yeah, so the get lost, the word must be underlined, getting lost in the pursuit of sense enjoyment. So long as we are not getting lost, that is okay until we get the full vairagya and full the divinely path. That's what I think. Thank you, Zaya.
Thank you very much.
I also goes with that lost only. You have to have the moderate way of the senses side. You shouldn't get lost on the sense and enjoyment. That's what I also see on this paragraph. Thank you, Sairam.
Just to share, I don't know if it's right and wrong. This is what I said to my daughter. New generation nowadays, we want to see the world. Okay, go ahead, see the world. So I was talking to my daughter about, having sadhana and having certain time to call God and communicate from a daily basis. So she said, but I want to see the world, Mom. I said, if seeing the world will help you in your divinity, go ahead and do it. But every act you do, just think how it's helping you. So if you want to see the world and it will help you to be a better person, go ahead and do it. Creator has created this thing. So if you think that's your way of divinity, understanding your own divinity, go ahead and do it. But understand every step you take, how it's helping you to be a better person. Sairam.
Sairam, sister.
So, Sairam, brother. So, that in the spiritual way, that the eye, mouth, ear. So, mouth is for saying Namaswarana. Ear, listen to the good thing. So, eye is looking at the God. And even the food, Baba saying, is a medicine. Think like a medicine. If you get headache, we put in Tylenol or some kind of medicine. So when you eat the food, when you are hungry, the hunger is no pain and hunger is gone. So if you have thirsty, when you drink water, it's gone. So think like food and water is kind of medicine. So external things are going to give pain all the time. If you enjoy anything, you can study harder, you can achieve anything, but end of the time it's not going to give you permanent bliss or permanent satisfaction in your life. So if you're enjoying something, you have to know there's a pain is going to come too. But if you move towards your all the senses toward inwardly, then you can move on without any pain and you can achieve the goal. That is my understanding. But Baba saying when you are enjoying everything, I'm also happy, but it is not permanent. You have to understand that one. Thank you, Sairam.
Thank you very much. Anyone else would like to share any thoughts, please?
As Ashwata said, I think as long as you the remembrance of Swami, we can enjoy anything. So that means, yeah, if we while enjoying something, if we forget Swami, that means that's the criteria, I guess. I think with constant remembrance of Swami within, we can enjoy, so that we won't, as I said, we won't get lost. That I think if we can try to stick to that thing will help.
Sairam. Anyone else? So I guess just to summarize, some my thoughts, based on listening to everyone. So I think if we take a look at, okay, there are two comments. I will just read them out. I think owner says, I think there is no favorable time. Now is the time to do. That's what Swami is saying. But Sitaram is asking a question: how do we establish ourselves in divinity? If anyone can share a few examples which we can follow, it will help all of us. And so I think I will just try, on a few points. I think the first one is unfavorable circumstances. I'm reminded of a story in Hindu literature, Tamil Hindu literature, called the devotee's name is Sakya Nayanar. This devotee is supposed to be a Buddhist monk. But this Buddhist monk developed devotion to Shiva. So the thing is, because of where he was, he couldn't, keep Shiva Lingam and pray and all that. But he wanted to worship the Shiva Lingam. So what he did was, every day he will pass a lingam and he will throw a stone at it. He imagined that stone to be a flower and threw at the Shiva Lingam. So his fellow monks thought, okay, this fellow hates Shiva Hinduism so much, he's throwing stones. But for that devotee, that became his prayer. So he was such a devotee that he has been elevated to the state of a Nayanar, and he is captured as one of the 63 Tamil devotees of Shiva. So even though his circumstances were so negative, he could not pray. He adapted the prayer, the way of prayer in such a way that turned out to be the greatest sadhana. So in our lives, whenever we have something very negative, for example, say a lady wants to cook, or even a man also has to cook. You want to get up at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, sing Omkaram, Suprabhatam. You want to sit quietly. But unfortunately, the family members have to leave, so we have to cook. And as Brother Sivada said, somebody has to go downtown. So, the food has to be cooked. And Swami has given many examples. He says, if you're cutting the vegetables, think that you're cutting the bad qualities. You're offering the food to the Lord. You're cooking food to the Lord. So there are many ways we can transmute our circumstances into favorable circumstances. Because unfortunately, we want a circumstance which does not exist. Only if we have that, we think we can do seva, we can do prayer, we can do anything. But Swami says you can transmute the circumstances in which you are put into sadhana. I think so. The favorability or unfavorability of the circumstances is within our own mind. So I thought I will share that. Then I will go on to Sister Kalyani's question about sensual enjoyments. The thing is, if anything which comes our way, if we think it is granted by the Lord, then that kind of enjoyment with our senses will be actually a prayer. You know, if we get food, then you think it's prasadam. Then we can eat that prasadam. You know, if we see a sight, we say, oh, this has been created by the Lord for me to enjoy. Then, you know, that becomes sadhana. But unfortunately, we want something, and that is not happening. And we seek it fervently everywhere. And if we have that kind of a tendency, that is getting lost. Because we, you know, God has put something in front of us, we don't want to appreciate that. We want to go after something else which is not in front of us. That kind of enjoyment, sensual enjoyment, I think is what is getting lost in the sensual enjoyment. Because we have 24 hours, 24 hours we are given so many things in front of us. It can be just a tree in front of our house, you can look at it and enjoy. But instead of that, we want to go somewhere, maybe the beach, or maybe some garden. But God will say, I have put a tree. Can't you see the beauty in it? You look at the flower in your front yard, and there's beauty in it. It's unfortunately, that's also sensual enjoyment, but that is sensual enjoyment looking at the world as creation of the Lord and God giving us a prasadam. I think that way, that kind of sensual enjoyment becomes prayer by itself is what I understood. So I thought those are 2 points which I will address. I will ask anyone else who would like to share any thoughts to share, please.
Sairam, I would just like to say this related to what Brother Arun said. Swami, sometimes, you know, he creates something and all the students around would rush to have a peek on it and hand over things over. And after all that, then Swami says, you are interested in, whenever you get interested in the creation, you forget the creator, you forget me. So that's a typical way of Swami's teaching. So that's what we have been doing in the world. So without forgetting Swami, we can enjoy anything as long as Sairam.
Thank you very much, brother. Thank you.
Sairam, brother, I can tell a story about Siradi Baba. One time, one lady was cooking at her home. One dog went there and started to bark. Then the lady, the lady threw a roti. Then dog was eating and happy and went. Then after that, the lady went in the evening to see Siradi Baba. Then Siradi Baba said, I'm so happy today. I had good food from you. The lady said, I didn't give you any food. No, I came as a dog. I was barking. Then you gave me a roti. So don't differentiate, even though you are human, that's a dog. The hungry is same. Doesn't matter, both have same hungry. So find the divinity, even the animals and even all the creation. So you will be happy. Thank you, Sairam.
Thank you very much, brother Sairam. So I think maybe we'll proceed, Sister Kalyani.
This is a slide we had already read.
Yes, please read. I don't think we discussed. So
read it again.
We have not discussed this. Okay, so we just read it once more, okay. And I think then we can discuss.
Bhakta, you used the word adhyasa. What does it mean, Swami? Swami, you do not know the meaning of that. Seeing one form and taking it to be another, superimposing one thing upon another. Bhakta, how is that? On which object do we superimpose another? Tell me. Swami, well, seeing a rope and imagining it to be a snake, seeing waves of hot air in the sun and imagining them to be horses, seeing a mirror shining in the sun and taking it to be a lamp.
So Sairam, everyone. Swami is talking about, I guess, the Maya principle, superimposition of something which we imagine on something which is the real thing. I think I will play the devil's advocate here. Sometimes we see this world and we enjoy the world so much, and then we tell, oh, it's all divine. Okay, human beings have the tendency to do that also, you see. That also can be superimposition of something, because we imagine something to be something else when it is not so. So I thought I will open it up for discussion. So we can do anything in this world and then say we are serving Swami. We can enjoy anything in this world and say, oh, we are enjoying Swami's prasadam. So how do we know when we are just fooling ourselves? And how do we know that that is the real experience? It's very, very important, because Maya also can be confused with devotion. So I think so I will open it up for discussion, because hopefully someone has some good explanations.
Sairam, it's better, I don't know, you create this question actually. Even the last explanation about the things, what you explained were very good. Actually, we appreciate it. And here also you are inducing, because Brother Vimalesan said, I have read that too. So Baba creates something and the students are attracted by what was created. Baba is asking, you are attracted by the creation, but you forgot about the creator. So creator, I am here, but you are happy with the creation. So it is, for a spiritual aspirant, is very, very important to give the least importance to the outside world. It could be a scenery, it could be a garden, it could be a sea beach, anything, sightseeing, mountains. Okay, first, look at that and you see the creator behind it and get established within yourself. So, as your brother said, that there's a misconception that everything is God creation and God created everything for us to enjoy, and everything is good, food is good. These are the intermediary steps, not the final steps for peace. And that's what Baba said earlier. The sense enjoyment aspect coming when we don't see the divinity within ourselves and without ourselves outside. So only one is the true, and what appears is false. Adhyasa, all superimposition. We are imposing something which we like and get lost in that one. So for a real aspirant, for the youngsters, I don't ask the youngsters to do like that. But for people like me, and I will not like to even enjoy the outside world, because it is adhyasa only. So getting established that Atma is everywhere and it is me, especially it is me, that will be a good spiritual approach, I think. Thank you, Sairam, for your inducement.
Anyone else would like to share? I just wanted to make one point, brother. You said youngsters may not be okay. It's good for old people. Swami will say start early. So I will stop that, and so I will open it up for the further discussion of how do we know that we are actually superimposing divinity was the real divinity we enjoy in everything which we see. See, both can happen. If something, then we superimpose God and say, oh, this is sadhana. This is God's blessing. all of us, I'm sure at different points do that. But then how are we to know that we are really not superimposing? That's our real experience. Maybe I will say something, and maybe then we can have a discussion. Okay, I will read. Brother Sitaram has written something. It's also important for us to understand that the creation is not an obstacle, but a medium to understand the reality of Creator. For that, we must use vichara, inquiry, discrimination, which God has given us. If we exercise this in every act, thought, we will be able to identify the superimposition. I will read it again. It's also important for us to understand that creation is not an obstacle, but a medium to understand the reality of Creator. For that, we must use vichara, which is inquiry or discrimination, which God has given us. If we exercise this in every act and thought, we will be able to identify the superimposition. Okay, so I will, so what brother has written, maybe I will explain. The thing is, I will give a slightly different example. See, for example, something which we enjoy happens and we'll say, oh, this is God's prasadam, this is divinity, everything we will say. Okay, then something bad happens. Something which we don't like happens. Then this theory goes to the dustbin. Yeah. Then we will say this world is bad, this person is bad, they are causing problems. We have this tendency. So that means the earlier instance we have actually superimposed. Our experience was not real. If that experience was real, even in the bad thing, we will see the divinity, divine hand. But we only apply this philosophy selectively to things which we like. As we said, sense enjoyment. So sensual pain is the other side. Do we apply the same theory there? If something bad happens, we are hurt, do we think, oh, Swami's hand is there also? Then our experience is real. Our experience is real only if it's consistent across all experiences. Otherwise, we only want to get lost in enjoyment, sensual enjoyment. But we just delude ourselves. Oh no, we are not treating like sadhana, God, we are seeing God in that and all. So I think that is the trick which the mind plays on us. The mind will superimpose and say, oh, you are doing sadhana, you are a great devotee. But when when the problem pops up, that is when the mind will not have any answer. And I think, so that's what brother, if we exercise this discrimination, this inquiry is a better word. If we inquire into everything which happens, we will find the divinity and we will be able to experience the divinity. Is, I think, something which we need to think about, Saira. I think I will open it up for any sharing of thoughts by the participants, Saira.
Okay, thank you very much for your story explanation. Thank you.
Sairam, I'd like to say just 2 points. As Brother Arun said, that's why I think in the spiritual sadhana, it's pretension, even slightly, we shouldn't have any pretension. I mean, unless we, even so, we shouldn't pretend even that way. Even we shouldn't pretend to ourselves that's what Brother Arun said. That's very important in the spiritual way. Otherwise, we will be deceiving ourselves that we are a little bit progressed, advanced. That's why unless we see divinity, we don't see divinity. We have to, as Brother Sitaram said, we can do the inquiry and try that way, this thing. But in any way, we shouldn't pretend to others or to ourselves that we are what we are not, what we really are not. So I think that's very important in the spiritual field. The other thing, as Brother Sivadas said, I would like to say that also. I think there should be some other Swami students, as Swami said, maybe they are special, but I would like to say that stories. Someone say maybe some one tiger went to Munivar, Rishi, and said that to ask for a mantra, it want to do sadhana because he want to give up non-veg and do a sadhana. And the saint said, okay, there is a mantra, but first you open your mouth. And it opened and there was no teeth at all. so like that. So for people like us, it's easy to say we shouldn't enjoy anything, but when people are young, for young people, they can enjoy, but in a dharmic way, as Brother Arno said, what comes to them instead of going all out for something, that kind of thing. That's why this Varnashrama Dharmam is, stage by stage you progress. So we can't, all people can't, should know that the young people, they still have to come to the, they have, so it's called age appropriateness. We can enjoy things age appropriately. But the main thing is whether we can enjoy things without forgetting Swami. Silent.
Sairam, if I can share a few of my experience. In Tamil, we say avanandri anuvum aseyadu, which is an atom. Even an atom won't move without God's will. And I also hear from my friends, every rice grain is written. It goes, which grain goes into whose mouth. And then Lord Krishna said, even every blade of the grass moves according to God's will. That's from the smaller side. That's how I believe in every small, from atom movement to rice, is God, is divinity within. That's from a micro to macro level. When I used to fly around North America regularly, work related, I see from the flight window, I see Niagara Falls, Grand Canyon, or Rocky Mountains. I see them as God's creation. I worship God, thanking Him for giving us this atmosphere. Even I go to walk, the breeze and the air that we get, water, when we drink water, that's God's creation. So from micro to macro level, we see God in every action, every creation. Also, this doubt is coming because of illusion. Swami is saying, seeing rope as a snake and sun as a lamp. So we need to have the clear understanding of what is real and what is unreal. God had placed Himself in the most sacred place, which is human heart. The distance between one and God is 0. So there cannot be any unavoidable situation. We must, as spiritual aspirants, we must use every circumstance as a favorable situation. As Swami's true devotees, we should make every effort to keep Swami in our heart, or realize Swami at every moment. Thank you, Sairam.
Sairam, brother. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So, Sairam, brother. So, when we do any sadhana, maybe yourself or with a group, we always think that Swami is watching you, Swami is hearing you. When we have this kind of thoughts, then that kind of awareness who you are, when you have those kind of things, your words, thoughts, deeds, everything going to be good, and you will see the divinity. Thank you, Sairam.
Sairam, brother. Thank you. Anyone else would like to share any thoughts, please? Okay, if not, Sister Kalyani, you can read the next. I think we are coming to the end of time, another 5 minutes at least. But please read on, and then we can continue from that point next week also.
Bhakta, but what is it that I see and what do I take it to be? Swami, you see Paramatma in this form of Prakriti and take it to be mere prapancha or the world, and you are afraid. It is on account of this delusion that you have become the victim of all these varieties of weakness, and you are declining through doubt and illusion. If you see it right, the delusion will vanish, the fear will disappear. The faith that is Paramatma will be firmly and boldly established in you. To get that firmness, the lamp of Viveka, discrimination, is necessary. How much a man suffers, so long as he sees the rope as a snake. How much is the fear, the delusion? Can it be realized how all that vanished as soon as it was seen in the light? Similarly, these doubts and delusions too will vanish unawares as soon as you know that Prakriti is Paramatma. Imposing a delusion on a delusion, imagining one object to be another, this is called adhyasa, my boy.
Thank you very much, sister. I think Swami is going on to explain this concept further, because I think this is something which we really have to understand and be able to apply in our daily life. If anyone has any thoughts, again, Swami has used the word discrimination, I think, which Brother Sitaram had mentioned earlier. So we have to inquire every situation until we find the divinity, until we are able to identify the Lord, identify the Lord's hand. And then we will never be upset, afraid, or we'll be not confused. That's what Swami says. Anyone would like to share any thoughts, please? Please go ahead.
Swami said we are all zeros. No, if you get 0, 0, 0, 0, that 4 times or 5 times, that there's no value. If you put only 1 in the front, it gets valid. If you take that, if you put 1 in the front, it takes 5 likes or 5. That's the valid there. And if you take out the zeros, also there is valid. There's 1 is valid there. Swami is the valid one for us in our daily life. If you have faith on Swami, 100% faith. I'm saying that 100%. If you have that faith, that Swami will guide you anywhere, everywhere. That's the point. And there's a story that there was a gentleman who died in the last day. Did he write to that lawyer and give to them, the lawyer, that the deeds was that there's 3 children. Yeah, I may know that, I may think that you all know the story, that this divide to the 3 children, that 3 children has to divide into that 9 camels, that father's property. They have to divide into that half. The half is to the first son, and then 1/3 in the second son, and then 1/4 for the daughter. The 9 camels, they cannot divide it. No, that so I told the story, this one, and they were fighting. That they don't know how to do that. They were fighting at the time. There's a man walking with a camel on the road, and he was inquiring that what they are quarreling. So they told that there's 19 camels. They had to divide in this way. The gentleman thought about that and then put his camel in that with that 19 camels, and it comes to 20 camels. Then they could divide it very easily. That half is 10 to the first son, and the second son is get the 5, and the third daughter is got the 4. The one is that the valid one. That one is God. We are always thinking that God. Then we will get everything. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you very much, brother. Anyone else would like to share any thoughts, please?
We may like to underline, impose in the last sentence, imposing a delusion on a delusion. Imposing a delusion on a delusion. So Yeah, we'll discuss next time, I think.
Okay. I think another question which Brother Sitaram has asked, but I think that will also we'll take up for discussion at the next session. For closing the loop of questions, we discuss what is the result we impose. What is the result of us imposing unreal on real? So he's asking, what is the result of imposing something which is unreal on the real thing? But as Brother Sivadas pointed out, Swami said, we are imposing something unreal on the unreal itself.
Yeah.
So there are three levels of superimposition happening. The reality is there, then we see something unreal. Then on that, what we see unreal, we have superimposed another unreal thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Swami said this infinite loop is what we are all facing in this world. And if anyone has something to say, we must discuss. Otherwise, we will contemplate on it for the week. Whatever we look at, let's see what is real, what is unreal, what's the real unreal which we are superimposing on that. And I think that is something which we can, it's an exercise we all can engage. In that way, from until next Saturday, 7 days, that's a question we can keep on asking. Everything we see, every object, every circumstance, we can see, is this an obstacle for us in the path of sadhana? I think that's a good exercise, and I think we can all share what we find, because that exercise itself will be inquiry and will turn out to be a sadhana, I think. With those thoughts, I think I will close the session today. It was wonderful discussion. I think Swami allowed us all to think and share various ways in which we can be strong in our pursuit of the sadhana, and no obstacle, no unfavorable circumstance will then stop us from practicing what Swami has asked us to practice. With those thoughts, we will close today's session with Samasta Loka and Shanti. Om Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.